voice of Virginia. All right, 8:33 this morning on News Radio WRVA. Time to talk to the former governor, Senator George Allen joins us here on News Radio WRVA. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Rich. How you doing?
I am great. You just heard Gary Hess talk about Virginia. I think Glenn Youngkin and a lot of other folks have used this term. We're open for business. According to CNBC, we are the third top state for business in 2026, ranked above Texas, Florida. Both have businesses that are flocking to their municipalities throughout those great states, and we're ranked ahead of. I just want to double check Tennessee, where I seem to see businesses moving all the time. What do you think of this?
All right, I know they'll use this in promoting Virginia. And Rich, you come from the world of sports, and so do I. And I also, in my inaugural address as governor, I said I wanted the world to know that Virginia is open for business. And we succeeded in a lot of different things that we wanted to do, and enterprise zones and prompt permitting and a variety of things, education and all the rest. And we ended up with still the record 312,000 net new jobs created during our 4 years. Now, the CNBC polling or rankings are one of those rankings. It's like in sports, there's a coaches poll, there's the
writers
USA
poll,
Today. Yeah, the sports writers poll, AP, USA Today, and so forth. So this is just one of many. I think that the most probative poll or ranking comes from Chief Executive that came out in late April, early May. And Chief Executive is they survey about 700 chief executives, the ones who make the site location decisions for their companies, where they're going to invest millions and billions of dollars. And year after year, the top three states consistently are number one, Texas, number two, Florida, number three, Tennessee, North Carolina's fourth, fifth is Georgia, South Carolina, Ohio has gone up, and Ohio's gone up in this one. Ohio's number one, according to CNBC. Arizona's eighth, Indiana's ninth, Virginia's 10th, then Utah, Nevada, South Dakota. So Virginia is probably a top 10 state. I think it probably is. But the reality is as far as business is concerned in Virginia, the one sector that is really doing great are gun sales. That's way up. That's a record number of gun sales. And this CNBC, they rank Virginia high in infrastructure. And part of that is really we have the widest and deepest port on the eastern seaboard, which can bring in the largest container ships, and the fact that there's you can have ships coming in as well as leaving Virginia. So we have really the best port on the eastern seaboard, and we're the furthest state north on the eastern seaboard with a right to work law. Now, you've heard me say, Rich, on your show dozens of times that people are not trees. People and businesses can and do move, unlike trees, and where they're moving to. And that to me is a big indicator, is where are people moving to. Virginia's population really has been pretty level or stagnant for the last 14, 15 years. And the states North Carolina is booming in population, as is Tennessee, as is South Carolina, Georgia, Florida,
Texas. Right.
And out west, people are leaving California and they're going to Arizona, Nevada, and Idaho and Utah. And so this ranking from CNBC, could be diluted by it, in that the fact that they say, oh, you're ranked these ways and such and such, but look at where they do have a ranking of how the economy is doing in different states. That's the actual proof of the pudding. And then the others, cost of doing business. And Virginia does not do well. Our economy, I shouldn't say it's not doing well, but our economy is ranked 23rd. Our cost of doing business, which is a big factor, big factor for site location decisions. We're 26th. We do have a good workforce in Virginia. We have a great workforce training program, and that's number 10 in their rankings. But here's where they skew things. They have this quality of life factor, and this is what makes the whole poll or survey or ranking suspicious. There's one they call quality of life, which gets about 12% of this vote. Now, quality of life, when you look at the rankings of quality of life, they have New Jersey as the third best quality of life in the country. People are leaving New Jersey and New York and Illinois and California. They're the biggest out-migration states. But who do they have at the bottom? Texas and Tennessee. Well, the quality of life is so awful in Texas and Tennessee that millions of people are flockers, maybe hundreds of thousands of people are moving to those states. Now, when you look at what their quality of life rankings are, and what fits into quality of life, one is crime rates, which is good. Per capita crime rates, Virginia does well, thanks to our truth in sentencing that we put in Virginia. But then they look at worker protections. Do they have livable wage policies, paid leave, rights to organize? That means that they do not have right to work laws. Now, I know darn well in recruiting businesses to Virginia that us being the furthest state north on the eastern seaboard with a right to work law is a tremendous competitive advantage. If you do not have a right to work law, your state's not even on the field of competition to lose. And so here they are skewing it. The Tennessee voters a few years ago overwhelmingly put right to work in their constitution. So that must upset the labor, the union type folks who are involved in this ranking. Then they look at inclusiveness as voting rights. I don't know how they're ranking voting rights and secure election systems, but they favor reproductive rights. So states that have restrictive abortion laws are downgraded, whereas those who have very lenient abortion laws are rated higher. And so there's a liberal skewing to this.
Oh my God! So that's why this makes sense. Because, sir, quite honestly, I look at what the infrastructure is. Yeah, absolutely. The ports we have at Virginia Beach, Hampton Roads, and over at the coast, they're great. But I also look at we're struggling right now with power. And we see our number one industry that's growing is data centers. We don't have enough power for that. We look at how friendly you are to business. Louise Lucas finding another piggy bank to break open for $1.2 billion over the next 2 years on the backs of the data centers. That doesn't look very friendly to me. We see Boeing moving out of Northern Virginia back to Missouri. I see companies moving in. I look at In-N-Out Burger. I look at Lindsay Snyder, who could have picked anywhere. And it's not, she didn't move her corporate headquarters. She just voted with their feet. I'm leaving California. Where am I going? She went to Tennessee. Why didn't she come to Virginia?
Well, Tennessee's got a much lower cost of doing business. It's a more freedom-loving state than Virginia. And the people in Southwest Virginia that border Upper East Tennessee, they see the difference right across the state line. And you bring up electricity costs. That is a major cost of doing business. And I'm not sure if these rankings, of course, Virginia's cost of doing business was 26, which is not really great compared to our competitors, states, which are to our south. And our electricity costs are increasing. And if you look at the states we compete with, we don't compete with Maryland and New Jersey and those states. We compete with the Carolinas and Tennessee and Georgia and Florida.
Right.
But our competitor states don't have added costs on their power bills for the Virginia Clean Economy Act, which adds a 4 or 5%, or the renewable mandate that adds another 4%, or the Coastal Virginia Offshore Wind Project that adds another 8-9%. And then now they've added this regional greenhouse gas idiocy, this regressive tax where Virginians are taxed to join with these losing population, high-cost northeastern states. And so that's going to add to everyone's power bills. The legislators who did this, Democrats and the governor, realized, hey, this is really regressive. This is going to add 7%, 8% to people's power bills. Let's give them a rebate. So they're going to have a partial rebate. So what my view is this rebate approach is rather than paying for someone's broken leg that you've run over on the side of the road, just don't hit them in the first place. Don't injure them. Then you don't have to mitigate the damages. Then they're going to put a payroll tax on this. Then you mentioned the new tax on data centers. That's coming up too. So there's a lot of things that are going to be deleterious to cost of living or cost of doing business in Virginia and affordability. Then they're going to be putting in, I think it kicks in the 2028, a new payroll tax on family leave.
Right.
There's about a dozen.
And a whole new bureaucracy that goes on top of that one. Sir, we're almost out of time, but I do have to ask you, Gary wanted to make sure that we got your thoughts on this. The number 44 for the Redskins will now be retired, John Riggins. And we wanted to ask you about that.
Oh, that's great. I'm really glad to hear that. John Riggins is a great guy. My father acquired John Riggins. There was 1 year there was free agency. That's before it became so prevalent. And my father signed John Riggins. He had been with the New York Jets and got him, and obviously played for my father and then Joe Gibbs for many years. And just a great guy, great sense of humor, articulate. His number should be retired. And afterwards, he's just been great in your profession, yep, Rich, as a broadcaster and commentator. And so I'm really happy. That's certainly appropriate. And John Riggins is just one of the very best Redskins of all time. And what a character, the Diesel.
How much of his DNA is in that Redskins Washington franchise? How much is he that cornerstone? Because he brought that blue collar work ethic that your dad had, and then with Coach Gibbs, he just seems like, if you look at Redskins football, his DNA is so big that he set the tone for what this franchise is always going to be about.
I think there's a lot of characters. I think of the Redskins, of course. I think of the Over the Hill Gang and Billy Kilmer, Sonny Jurgensen's part of it. People like Charlie Taylor, Larry Brown was just tough as a pine knot as far as a running back. Riggins was a Diesel, tough, also a character, right, kind of a free spirit. And so Riggins in that run in the Super Bowl is, one of the greatest runs in Redskin history. So there's a lot of players through the years that are part of that Redskin, greatest Redskins, and clearly getting your number retired as part of it. Yeah, Bobby Mitchell is another great one. People think of the Hogs. They think of people like Chris Handberger. I think of Ken Houston's great tackle on the goal line of Walt Garrison in a Monday night game. And so there's Redskins football. Franchise. There's not just one. There's a lot of them, and John Riggins would, of course, give credit to his offensive line as well. And Joe Theismann's part of that history.
Absolutely. There's just so much to
Williams,
it. So much
Doug,
to that.
Doug Williams.
The
Doug Williams at that one Super Bowl in the second quarter. If you had no one playing defense, you wouldn't be able to have the statistics. Somebody would have just dropped a pass open. It's just the most phenomenal second quarter in Super Bowl history. So there's a lot of great people, great coaches, great administrators through the years with the Redskins.
It's nice to see him get his due.
Yeah, and hopefully they show pictures of him with the Redskins helmet and not make it look like the woke commodes that they have become.
Sir, thank you very much. Appreciate it. We'll catch up with you next week.
Sure will. See you on the trail ahead, Rick.
All right, take care. Governor George Allen joining us here on News Radio WRVA. Love when you get a chance to talk to the governor. All right, today's program is brought to you in part by our friends at A+ Windows. I tell you this all the time. There's certain things that you do as a guy, as a man, as a head of the household, as a wife, as a homeowner, and you do things a couple times, you get better at each time. One thing I can almost guarantee you're not going to do a lot of in your life is buy a replacement window. Normally you do it once in your lifetime. So you better get it right. So how do you get it right? Well, you need as much information as you